How you guys doing? My name is Carl. Today we're going to be doing a Power BI day in the life scenario with me. I'm going to show you guys how a day in the life doing Power BI could go. And we're going to talk through a scenario. We're going to look at some data and then we're going to do some Power BI. And then you guys can leave a comment down in the description if there's any questions or any feedback that you guys want to give. I welcome any feedback. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So the scenario for today is going to be in United States auto broker transactions. And I have the scenario here, and we're just going to go ahead and go to this next page, which breaks down the scenario and the client's need. So we can just read through this right quick. A report that shows the weighted auto broker transaction across the US, combine the first and last name column in Power BI, and they want everything on one page. And the project cost is going to be $2,000. And the need date for this project is 1 month from contract agreement. So this is an opportunity to basically make $2,000 in 1 month. So let's go ahead and check out the data. All right, so here is the data. So what it looks like we have here is we have an ID column, first name, last name. That's the two columns that they want to combine. We have an email, we have a date, we have the states, which is great. We have the cars, and then we have the transaction quantity. So this is perfect. So it looked like we have, how many rows do we have here? It looks like we have 1,001 rows. Well, 1,000 rows. So this is great. So let's go ahead and open up Power BI to get this project finished. All right, so we have Power BI up right now. And right now we have a blank canvas. And if you guys would like to see any Power BI tutorials on how to get started with Power BI, I have a card showing right now, so you guys can go check that out. But with that being said, I'm gonna just dive right into it. So I'm going to grab my data. It's gonna connect. And that is my data right there. So we just go ahead and click load that data. So we have that data loaded. And now we can go ahead and just start looking at what we have. So let's make sure all the data comes over correctly. This is the way I like to do things. So I just kind of like to flow the same way that Excel spreadsheet flowed. We got emails, we got state, we got quantity. And let's make sure everything is in a good order. So first thing I see here is, and Power BI does this sometimes, is they change the formatting for the date. So instead of seeing the date how we saw it in the Excel file, and I'll show you guys right quick, the date coming like this, what Power BI did was give you an opportunity to say, you know, you can get your date in separate columns. That gives you opportunity to set it by the year, by the quarter, by the month, or by the day, which is fine. But for the sake of this scenario, click on this down button. We're just going to change it back to date because we don't want it to change necessarily. Let's add another scenario to this, which will kind of make this a little bit more fun. So in addition to the scenario that we already have, let's add this quantity sold on any given day. And then I'll just say, all right, so that's going to be another thing that I want to go ahead and show you guys just to add a little bit more to the scenario. And the reason why I got that idea right quick is because of that date populating to say Thursday. So the next thing I want to do is I want to change that format because I really don't want that day to show up there. But however, I do want the day to show up because now we have it in our scenario. I just want the date to show up like this. So it kind of looks clean. And now that we have everything in our table the way we want it, this gives me an opportunity to really see what the quantity totals are. And another thing right here, you can say sum it up, or you can say don't sum it up at all. And the same here for the ID. We really don't have to calculate anything in the ID column because it's just the ID column. So let's just take off that. Let's take off that sum function. So now we have the data in this base form. So we have ID, first name, last name, date, cars, email, stakes, and quantity. First thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and combine this first name and last name into one column. How do you do that? Well, simple. We're going to come here. Next thing we're going to do is going to say new column. And then this column comes up and we can just say name. Name equals. The next thing we want to do is we want to say concatenate. What we want to concatenate is the first name. I'm going to hit enter here. So we have the first name concatenated. The next thing we want to do is we want to do the full name. So let's just call that name with space. Then we want to come here and say new column. And let's just call this the full name. Concatenate again. Remember, name with space. So name with space. And then we're going to do last name. Close that. Hit enter. So we've done the first thing. So if you look back, it says show transaction across US, combine the first and last name. So we've done that. So I'm going to just go ahead and highlight that and say we're finished. So we're good on that part. So we're almost done so far, right? So now that we have our full name column, we can come here. We can hit the plus on full name, and we can kind of confirm that the full names have been established from, and we can just kind of bring it to right there at the last name, and we can look at the tables and see Cassius, Lily, Emmett, so on and so forth. So we see that we have already combined those two columns in Power BI. So we're almost there. So we're a quarter away there. All right, so the next thing we want to do is the quality sold on any given day, Monday, Tuesday, etc. So in order to do that, what we want to do now, we've had the full name, we got that taken care of, that's done. But instead of doing a column this time, what we want to do is a table. So we're going to come here and we're going to do a DAX expression for dates. So I'm going to do some quick magic because this will take a little long to explain, but here is the DAX expression for that particular table. And now that we have that table, now we can see that we have the month number. Let's start from the beginning. We have the dates, we have the day, we have the year, we have the month, and we have the year in the month. So what's missing from that? One thing I noticed for as far as the day came back wrong. So what I'm going to do is format the day. And we're just going to call this all right. So that fixes that. All right, so that fixes that, and we can now see that we have the date, we have the day, we have the year, we have the month number, which January is the first month, we have the month, and then we have the year month. All right. So we are halfway there as far as what we want to see. And what we did was just create another table instead of a column, because some expressions you can do columns and some expressions you can actually do full tables. And this is something good to have in your tool belt whenever you're working in Power BI and having to use DAX to be able to decipher between days or days of the week and stuff like that. Now let's go to our relationships tab. So I'm gonna just point out something for you guys real quick. So now we have a date column in our dates table, And when we go to our data, we also have a date column. So making sure that this says date and this is the real dates. Doesn't matter how the format is, but just making sure that you can make those relationships. So what we can do now is we can tie this from a relationship standpoint together. So now we are one step closer. So if I go ahead and real quick, just to check my data, if I come here, if I can grab this, there we go. If I come here and just expand this window out, we can just go ahead and move it up for now, just to give us more to look at. Now, if I come down here to dates, and then I just pull over, let's just say the day. Let's just pull that over to right behind date. So now September 13th is a Monday, and so on and so forth. And if we put this in chronological order, we see that January 1st, Friday, 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 Sunday, Sunday, so on and so forth. So we know that our dates are good. Now, if we wanted to see this from a month standpoint, we can do the same thing. Put it here. Now we can see September, Monday in September, so on and so forth. All right. So we're good from that standpoint. Let's just go ahead and take that away. And we can take that away. All right. So I like to kind of keep my base data on the screen while I work on any of my data. So I'll just keep this on the screen for now. So we can go back to our, we can check that off. So everything on one page. So we can leave that for last. Then the next thing is a report that shows the weighted auto broker transaction across the US. So now we're going to get an opportunity to use the map in Power BI. So let's go ahead and shrink this down a little bit. Still want to keep it on the page. All right, so now we want to go ahead and start using the visualization to show us the state. So let's just talk through these different ones. So the map, in order to use this visualization, you're going to need latitude and longitude. In order to use this visualization, you also need the latitude and longitude. And this one's a little bit smarter. So it has some artificial intelligence data in it. So it can recognize if you use actual state names or country names. So we're going to use this one. It's just the shape map. So we're just going to hit states. And now you see that we've had sales in just about every state except Wyoming, New Hampshire, and Vermont, which is fine. And now you see we have North Carolina, so on and so forth. Now to start seeing data in each of these maps, what we can do, we can add some of the quantities to the tooltips. We can also add the full name, and we can add the cars. And let's just leave it at that for now. So when I hover over Texas, now I can see names, cars, and quantity. So one thing we can kind of take out here is just the full name, because we know that one person didn't buy all the cars. We know, but we do know that each state had a specific grand total of cars or of transactions. All right, so when we click on Texas, we see just Texas get highlighted. And when we off click, we don't see anything. So this is great. So far, so good. We are making amazing progress. The next thing I want to do, we want to make sure that we're going to show this visualization to our client. And I want to keep this as big as possible. Then we'll figure out where to put it a little later. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and add some tabs. If we look at our data here, we see we have quantity, states, emails, cars, date, full names, right? So tabs that we can add that are beneficial would be probably your full name, your cars, and your states. So we can add 3 tabs use for the customer's advantage to quickly look through the data. So let's go ahead and add the full name tab first. So I'm just going to click on full name, and so there's a few different things we can do here. We can make this a slicer, and by doing that, we know that this slicer is probably going to take up a little bit of space if we have it set up like this, or we can make it a drop down. And by making it a drop down, now you can move this slicer up, and you have the ability to kind of look at, okay, the names are legible, I can read them, the names aren't that long. So what I can do with this data, with this tab, is just kind of shrink that tab down, and now I have a name drop down. Now another thing that we can do to speed this up, and I'm gonna just use two different options, because remember, we have a whole month to do this, so there's no need to rush, and we can play with several different things. So let's just go to get more visuals and click on get more visuals. And what we're going to look at is, we're just going to type in search. And something that I like to use, I've used this quite often, is the smart filter. You can also use this text filter. And we'll just, for the sake of the video, look at both of them. So let's just add it. So it has imported successfully. And then let's just go back to get more visuals. Let's type in search again, and we're going to add this one as well. All right, so we've imported both of those, and what we can do is we can just take the slicer that we already created, copy it, paste it, slide it down, and then we can just change this visual to a text search. Now what we can do, if the client is more familiar with the names, what they can do is now, let's just type in a name. So we have Eldon Corey as the first name that pops up. So when we type in Eldon, this is what we get. We have everything that has Eldon in it, from the full name to the email to everything else. All right. So now that we have this added, what we can do is we can type in a name, and let's just pick Tara for an example, and hit enter. And now we see that Tara is the only one that pops up, which is great, right? So if you want to just look at the other one, you do the same thing, copy and paste it. Sometimes it takes more than one chance, more than one try. And then we can just change this. And now we can do the same thing here. Let's use somebody different. Let's use Jody. Now when I type in Jody, I get a drop down, and then I can click on Jody. So you can play around with these if you want, and just pick the one that's best for you. And we'll just leave this up here until we work through the rest of them. So what I like to do is, now that I have all three of them selected or created, I like to just go ahead and do a copy. Then I paste, and I can just come here. And now I don't need the full name. What I want to do is do the cars. Do the same thing here. No longer need the full name. I want the car. Same thing here. And you get what I'm trying to do now. All right, so we can drag this down a little bit. And basically the same thing. You could do the same thing with these. So the last one that we wanted to do was the states. So we come here and we do the states. So now we have the states. So we have three different options that we can go with on our three tabs that we wanted to use. So the way I look at this is, if I have to eliminate this particular table for the sake of space, then what I want to do is, if I had to go ahead and eliminate this, what I would do is just go ahead and get rid of this one, because it's so much data. I'll also go ahead and get rid of this one, and I'll do the same thing for these. But you guys get the idea that you can use several different options as far as making your tabs and building out your page. So these are the ones that I'm going to keep. And once again, this doesn't have to be so large. Yeah, we'll keep it large for the sake of District of Columbia in there. And I think this one kind of auto sets itself as well, but that's fine. All right, so now we have our 3 tabs at the top. Show the weighted auto broker transaction across the US. The keyword here is weighted. So we want to be able to identify by looking at this map who has the most sales and who is probably on the lower end. And the good thing about this particular visual, the shape map, is they have a color saturation. So whenever you add something in the color saturation, whether it be the states, let's just show you right quick. You see that now we have a little bit more transparency in each one of the states to kind of give you a color indicator of what may have the most sales by showing the darker color to represent higher volume of transactions and the lighter colors to represent a lower value in transactions. So now it's starting to look like we're going to make this customer happy. Another thing you can do too in the color saturation is you can just simply add the quantity. And it does the same thing as adding the state. So it's give or take whichever one you want to choose. And remember that when you hover over it, you have the tooltips. However, it's now going to show me quantity twice. So I can get rid of quantity there. And now I can say, give me the state, the quantity, and I don't want to say first cars. I just wanted to show the states and then show the quantity. Now, what I want to do as far as the cars is I want to go ahead and do a graph. So visually, for the most part, people read from left to right. So the GUI thing that I'm pretty sure they want to see first is this cool representation of what they really want, right? So they want to see exactly what they said here. A report that shows weighted auto broker transaction across the US. So as soon as they look at this, they're going to say, oh, look at there. As soon as they see this, they're going to be excited about what they see. And then as they continue to look to the right, what we're going to do now is we're going to just say cars. And you see it says Acura, whatever. So all the different types of cars. And we're going to look at this here. So of course we got to do cars, and then we have to have a value. Now we have cars and we have an actual value, which is definitely pointing in the right direction. It's funny because I went down here, I was looking for Tesla, and Tesla is like right there at 37 cars. So, which is fine. So we have cars, we have the weighted values, and then what we can do here is to make this data make a little bit more sense visually, is we can come to visual, turn on our data labels, and now we have a count. So Ford has 4,000 transactions across the US, and you see here, those are those numbers, and you get what I'm trying to do. So you add all those up, you know, and you get 4,400. All right. The next thing we want to do is, since we got that done, I realized we highlighted this quantity sold on any given day, but we really didn't specify with a graph how that looks, right? So let's just go here. Let's go to our date, and what we want to look at is the day. So we got Monday, we have the days as such. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday through Sunday. And what we want to do here is basically the same thing. And we can just pick any one of these values. Actually, let's just pick the quantity. So now we know, and we really want to be able to see, since this is not a lot of data, we want to be able to see everything at once. Now that we have our quantities by day, we can just start kind of cleaning up some of this stuff. And I think what we can do now also is go ahead and eliminate this table. So now we're starting to look like something, right? So the first thing first, let's just go ahead and clean this up. Just say full name. Let's do the same here. Cars is fine. States is fine. Another thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and center. Let's get rid of the slicer header. And we're going to add this. We're just going to say name. And then we're going to put this in the middle. And we're going to change this font to Arial. And we can keep it at 14. And we're going to do the same thing here. And that cleans it up a little bit. Now we want to go ahead and clean this up. So go back to visuals. We got map settings here. So of course we're using the United States. So USA map. And then we have our zoom functions here. So it has the ability to zoom or zoom on selection. So this is how that looks. So when you click on something, it'll zoom. And then you have a manual zoom, which I really never really use. And then you have your auto zoom. So this is zoom on its own or zoom kind of like that. So that's something that it does, what it can do. And we have some different things that we can do here as well. The blank areas, what I like to do for the blank areas, gray. And I'll just try to find a nice little sweet spot. And now I'll go back up here. We can just get rid of that. Go to our general. We have a title. And what I want to just call this is, we just want to call this let's call it the weighted state values. All right. And now we can put this in the middle and we can match our font with everything else. And I love to see shadows. This kind of lets the data pop out. So this is something that I like to do personally for my own satisfaction. And it's kind of like a, hey, this is my work type of deal, right? The reason why I like to group it is because when I want to move it, I can just move it around the way I want it to move. And I like to kind of have everything looking uniform. So that's good where it's at. We're going to do the same thing here. We'll go to our general tab. It has a title. We want to change this title to say, I think it's fine what it says, but we'll just leave that. Quantity by day is fine with me. And same thing here. We'll leave it the way it is. Next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and drop a shadow on this one. And I want to do the same thing for this one. Drop a shadow. Now that data stands out a lot more. And something else I see is I want to make sure that this is not that little dark gray, but actual black. So I'm going to go to the axis, change it to black. So I'm going to do this and just put some data labels on it. So now we see some data labels. And if we go ahead and hit forward right here, we add all that up, well, we can tell that the number's right. Now, another thing that we can do is we can add a card here. And we have several different cards. So we have this one right here, which is just a regular card. And I'll just move it right here. And then you have another one, which is this one. It's a multi-card. And then another one right here is just KPI. We'll just leave that one out of it for now. But for the sake of this one, we'll just say give me quantity. That's my total, right? And if we did the same thing here, give me quantity, it's going to give me quantity. And then I can add a little bit more data to it, right? So clean up that data. So Alicia, get a Volkswagen. She got 14 Volkswagens, so on and so forth. Another thing you can do too is what makes sense to this data is just go ahead and add the states there. So now when you click on the state, you can see all the people that bought a Volkswagen in that state, and as well as the quantities being updated in the different graphs. Now this quantity right here, it just says 50K. We want it to have a real number. So what I want to do is just turn off the category label because we know what it is. And we can change this to the right value. And then just take this and say none. Now we can kind of get rid of this. I just wanted to show you guys that, but we don't really need it. Then we can stretch this across. What I want to do is go ahead and give this a title and just call this totals. Make sure I fix the Arial, be consistent. And total is right there. It has a text wrap on it, which is fine. And then my favorite thing to do, drop the shadow. We can put that right there. Now the only thing missing is there is some additional space here. What I like to try to do is eliminate as much space for one pagers as possible. And by doing that, we can just go ahead and come here, ungroup these, and we can just space these out. So now, because we've done that, we can go do my favorite thing to do, and just add my shadows on each one of these. Because I love the shadows. It just make it pop. Next thing we do is we're going to insert some text at the top. And we're just going to call this what they want to call it. And United States Auto Broker Transactions. So I'll just copy that from there. Now that I have that copied, I'll just go ahead and extend it across. Shrink this down. Center this. And since black is really not consistent throughout this, since black isn't consistent throughout this particular project, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to change this font to that blue, which is, I think this one, which is fine. So with that being said, we can say take background off. Now that we've got that done, let's just go ahead and take a look at it at full size, fit it to the page. And now if I was a customer and I came in here and said, hey, I wanted to really dig into this data, I'm going to select through each one of these tabs. So I'm going to say, where's all the purchases he made on Thursday, and it was all Cadillacs. Tuesday it was all Mitsubishi. So it's given the state as well as the purchase. So now that I look at this, the only thing that I feel like is missing is state card. So as you select through this data, but we have the graph indicator here. Bringing this in. And let's just copy this. That way we can kind of keep the same format and everything. Let's extend this down like this. And instead of doing the day, let's do states. And now we have some values that's on the screen so we can kind of see from a visual standpoint. And it gives us an opportunity to say either use the drop downs for states and cars or use a graph, the actual graph. So when I click on forward, now I can see the weighted values as well as how dark each one of those are from the forward standpoint. So with that being said, I think we're done here. We can come back to our report here. Everything on one page that has been completed. The need date is 1 month from the contract agreement. We just got the contract agreement today. And then guess what? We finished it today. So what you would do in this situation, or what I would do in this situation, is I will finish it today, stop at this point right here, go sleep on it, wake up the next day, start a new page, and do a whole new concept. But for today, we're going to stop right there. I hope you guys enjoyed watching a day in the life of a Power BI guy. I hope you guys got something out of that. I hope you learned something from it. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave your comments and questions down in the comments section. We will see you guys on the next one. Make sure you subscribe if you're new to the channel. Make sure you smash that thumbs up. And make sure you share this on Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And we will see you guys in the next one. Continue to learn on the go as you grow. My name is Carl. Peace.